Good evening. From Copenhagen, Denmark, we bring you an extraordinary press conference following the European Union's Gymnich meeting of foreign ministers, a gathering held against the backdrop of war in Ukraine, famine in Gaza, and rising global tensions. For over 7 hours, ministers wrestled with urgent questions: how to hold Russia accountable for its relentless airstrikes, how to use frozen Russian assets to rebuild Ukraine, and how far the Union should go in confronting Israel over its actions in Gaza and the West Bank. The High Representative of the European Union opened the session with a sobering message. Russia is not preparing for peace. It is preparing for more war. Just this week, Kyiv endured the second largest missile barrage since the start of the invasion. Civilians were killed, EU and British offices were damaged, even a US factory was struck. Europe's response, he said, must be maximum pressure through sanctions, tariffs and efforts to close Russia's shadow fleet of sanction-dodging ships. But sanctions are only one piece of the puzzle. Ministers openly debated whether to tap into Russia's frozen assets, billions of euros immobilized in European banks, to finance Ukraine's defense and reconstruction. While Belgium warned against destabilizing financial markets, the High Representative insisted the risks can be managed. One principle, he declared, is non-negotiable. Russia will never see that money again unless it pays full reparations for the devastation in Ukraine. From Eastern Europe, the conversation shifted to the Middle East. On Iran, the so-called E3, France, Germany and the UK, confirmed they are reimposing United Nations sanctions. The High Representative reminded Tehran the door to diplomacy remains open, but the ball is in Iran's court. On Gaza, emotions ran high. The announcement by Israel that Gaza City is now a combat zone, combined with the United Nations declaration of famine, left ministers alarmed. Gaza needs less war, not more war, the High Representative warned. He condemned West Bank settlement expansion as illegal, and several EU member states, including Denmark, revealed they are suspending arms exports to Israel and sanctioning certain officials. Denmark's foreign minister, speaking next, pressed his colleagues to act. He argued that Israel's campaign goes far beyond self-defense and called for suspending the trade chapter of the EU-Israel agreement. He also urged reopening a medical corridor from Gaza to East Jerusalem to treat Palestinian patients, offering Denmark support for humanitarian evacuations. But unity remains elusive. Some member states favour harsher pressure on Israel, while others fear such measures could backfire. The Danish minister dismissed this as a false narrative, insisting that inaction empowers extremists on both sides of the conflict. Reporters pushed the officials on the toughest issues. One Bloomberg journalist asked whether new sanctions would finally hit Russia's oil and gas, the lifeblood of Moscow's war machine. The High Representative replied that all options are under review, including secondary sanctions and even crypto financing bans, but admitted consensus is still distant. From Reuters came another pointed question: are EU divisions on Gaza actually growing wider? The High Representative pushed back, saying that as more states support stronger measures, the majority grows, not the divisions. Still, no binding decisions were made in Copenhagen. Other questions probed the EU's credibility. A Danish reporter asked whether citizens are losing faith in the Union's foreign policy, given its inability to act swiftly. The High Representative agreed Europe must rethink its rule of consensus. Too often, he said, one country blocks the entire Union, leaving citizens disillusioned and partners abroad frustrated. And then came Hungary. Its foreign minister before the meeting called the talks a pro-war tsunami for Ukraine. Inside the room, however, officials described a constructive, if critical, debate. Once again, Hungary's position underscored how fragile unity can be when 27 voices must align. The final exchanges circled back to frozen Russian assets. Could they be used before peace talks to cover Ukraine's enormous budget gap? Some ministers said yes, but Belgium and others said absolutely not. The High Representative reiterated European Council law is clear. The assets remain frozen until Russia pays reparations. Changing that would require unanimous agreement. And so the day ended as it began, with hard truths but no dramatic breakthroughs. The Danish minister summed it up best. Right now, it is the slowest ship in the convoy that defines the speed. For Europe to be credible on the world stage, it must move faster, act bolder, and speak with one voice. As the press conference closed, the message was unmistakable. Europe faces wars on two fronts, one in Ukraine, one in Gaza, and battles within its own walls over how to respond. The High Representative urged realism but also persistence. Russia must pay, Gaza must see relief, and the European Union must prove it can deliver. For now, the questions outnumber the answers. But in Copenhagen, the debates made one thing clear: the future of Europe's foreign policy hangs in the balance.